Good morning. So in this video we're dealing with quadratic word problems again, but we're dealing with consecutive numbers. Um, so if you remember back in foundations we did consecutive numbers, but you're going to find out when we set up our equation in this one it's going to be a little bit different, alright? So anyway, let's go ahead and set it up. It says what's the largest of three consecutive positive odd integers? When you see the word positive or negative, do not worry about that currently. It does not matter until we get to the very end. The only thing that we care about is the word even or odd. And we have the word odd, so that's what we care about. We care about this odd right now. So I'm going to write our let statement. So because we're going to let x represent the small number, so it's going to be our small. We're going to let x plus 2. Remember, we need to count by 2's because it's odd. So this is going to be our middle number. And then we'll let x plus 4 be our large number. And we're going to put a little number sign at the end. So once we have our let statement set up, we can write our equation. This is where a lot of students have difficulty. So I'm going to go and write out this part. It says the product of the first and last integer. So I want to take the product of first and last integer. And then it says is 1 more than 4 times middle number, right? So we know product means multiply. Well, let's start off with the is. So everything on this side has to stay on this side. Everything on this side has to stay on this side. We cannot cross the equals, alright? So we're taking the product. In order to take the product of the two things, we need to be multiplying two items. And the two items are the two things we're taking the product of. It's the first and last integer. So we have our first, which is a small number, and our largest. So we're going to be multiplying x times x plus 4. And that's the product of the first and last. Over here, we're doing 1 more than, I'm going to put a little asterisk for a reason. You probably know why. And then it says 4 times the middle number, which is x plus 2. So we have 4 times the middle number, and we have 1 more than. But just remember, when we have this 1 more than, usually we have to flip those two things. So we're going to flop those two things. So we're going to put the 4 times x plus 2 in the front. And now our more than part is kicking in, right? We're going to put the 1 more than at the end. So now we're going to go ahead and solve this problem, solve this equation. So we have x on the outside of a parenthesis. So we're going to go in and distribute. So we get x squared plus 4x. And then we have a 4 on the outside of the parenthesis. So we're going to go ahead and distribute that. So we get 4x plus 8 plus 1. There's no like terms here. For those of you who don't normally have me, I do something called DCM. I always try and distribute, combine like terms, move the variable to one side. So distribute, combine like terms, move the variable to one side. So there's no like terms on this side. When I go to this side, we do have some like terms. We have 8 and 1. So 8 plus 1 is 9. And so now all we're going to do, we're going to move all these numbers to one side. Because if you notice, we have an x squared term. anytime we have an x squared term, we want to move everything to one side so we get 0 on one side. That is the only way currently that you can solve an equation that has x squared. So always move everything to one side. So we have minus 4x, minus 4x. So we have 9 left, and we have x squared. I'm going to subtract 9, and we get x squared minus 9 is equal to 0. So once we get this equal to 0, we can actually factor this. Alright, so we're going to factor this. We know a is 1, we know b is 0, and we know c is negative 9. Remember, a is the number in front of x squared, b is the number in front of x. Since there was no x, we know it's 0. And then c is just the number that's by itself. So since a is 1, we can quick factor. So I'm going to set that part up. Put x. I'm going to put x. And I'm going to go ahead and figure out what two numbers multiply to give me 9. And they have to add up to give me 0, because that's my middle term. So I'm going to go and write my 9 here. Start with 1. We know 1 times 9, 1 times 9, put my times, put my plus. But when we add these or subtract them, we do not get 0. Go to 2. 2 times nothing, that does not work at all, so cross that out. And we know 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. When we add that, we get 6, but when we subtract it, we get 0. Put 3. One thing I want you to notice is that I did not worry about the negative. Whenever you're trying to figure out your factors, do not worry about the negatives. When you get to the addition, that's where you start worrying about the negatives. So in order to get 0, one of them needs to be negative. And a negative times a positive is a negative, and 3 times 3 is 9. Negative 3 plus 3 is 0. So it works out. So I'm going to put my minus 3 and my positive 3. And so now we set each one equal to 0. So I'll pull this up. So we have x minus 3 is equal to 0. And we have x plus 3 is equal to 0. We're going to add 3 on both sides, so we get a positive 3. Subtract 3 on both sides, and we get a negative 3. In the problem, remember where we said we're going to save it for the end? It says positive. That's the only time we worry about positive or negative. It says positive. So we're going to take our positive answer, which is this one, and we know that is going to be our x. So over here we know x is going to be 3. So that's the small number. And so x plus 2, so if we plug in 3 right there, we know 3 plus 2 is going to be 5. So that's the middle number. And then we have our next one, which was x plus 4. So if we plug in 3 right here, 3 plus 4 is 7. That's our large number. And if you notice, it's 3 consecutive odd numbers. They go in order, 3, 5, 7, and they're odd. And when we go back to the problem, it says, what is the largest of 3? So the largest of the 3 is 7. And we're done with that problem. I really hope this video helped. Thank you for your time.